The bells of morning toll through the mist, their sound carrying like silver threads stretched across the waking town. The woman draws her woolen veil close, the coarse weave brushing against her cheek, holding in the warmth as the damp air seeps into her bones. Beneath her feet the cobbles are slick with dew, each stone echoing centuries of steps, of burdens carried, of laughter quickly stifled. She walks slowly into the heart of the market, where voices already rise in the thin light of dawn, weaving a chorus that feels at once eternal and fleeting. The square breathes with smoke and scent. Ash from early hearths drifts above the stalls, mingling with the sharper tang of fish laid upon beds of crushed ice, scales glimmering faintly like mirrors of the rising sun. From a nearby oven comes the soft sweetness of honey cakes, their crusts darkening to amber, drawing children forward with coins clutched in mud-stained fists. She carries her own basket, lined with linen, long frayed at the edges. Each stitch was pulled by her hands in another season, and though the fabric weakens, she refuses to replace it. It is both a burden and a memory, proof of her quiet endurance. Around her, the cries of hawkers strike the air like iron on anvils. A cloth merchant unfurls a bolt of deep red wool, the color of autumn leaves pressed in books of prayer, and the fabric ripples as if it held a wind of its own. The butcher beside him raises his cleaver high, wood groaning beneath each strike as crimson flesh is portioned and weighed. Children dart through the lanes, baskets swinging, their small bodies slipping between adults heavy with purpose. The air is crowded, alive. Yet each figure moves within the rules of unspoken ritual. Who may speak, who must wait, who may bargain, and who will simply accept. She pauses at a stall where glass jars hold wonders, peppered dark as night. Cinnamon curled like dried bark from distant trees, and saffron, glowing like fire held captive, gazes long at the golden threads, their price far beyond her means. Yet in the sight alone there is a moment of escape. She imagines her own bread tinted with such brilliance, the fragrance filling her narrow home, children's faces lit as if the sun itself had been laid upon the table. For an instant, the dream is enough. Around her, men argue prices with voices sharpened by authority, their words flung like stones across the market's tide. A priest passes, his eyes lifted beyond the square as though such trade were beneath notice. Women gather in small circles, their whispers braided tighter than the ribbons they knot in each other's hair. From lips half hidden by veils flow not only the exchange of goods, but of secrets, who bore a child, who fell ill, whose dowry was lost to misfortune. These circles are not written in law, but they hold power of another kind, a network of survival woven from shared silence. The woman listens, but does not join. Her silence shields her, but it also binds her. Each step she takes is careful, deliberate, carrying both hunger and restraint. The market is a stage of voices, colors, and clamor, yet she moves within it like a shadow. Beneath her veil, her eyes linger on saffron, on silk, on a world just beyond her reach. She feels the weight of her basket as though it were the weight of her life, filled not with luxury, but with necessity, not with desire, but with endurance. As the bells fade into the morning's rising hum, she turns deeper into the market, her path vanishing into the tide of bodies. Around her, the chorus of barter continues, but within her there is another sound, a muted toll that only she can hear, a reminder that the day has only just begun, and that longing must wait until tomorrow. Beneath banners that sway lazily in the midday sun, the marketplace trembles with its own heartbeat. The timbered stalls creak under the weight of produce and cloth, while the air is thick with the mingled scents of roasted chestnuts, singed wool, and the sweat of too many bodies pressed into too small a space. The woman steps carefully, her skirts dragging the mud as if they carry the day's burdens with them. Her sleeves, once white, but now worn to a tired gray, gather the smoke of the chestnut pans until she carries the scent upon her skin. She does not hurry. To move swiftly is to miss the hidden threads woven into this gathering. She watches as if each glance were a page turned in a book she cannot own. A group of young men stand tall, their laughter loud and reckless. Each story they boast brighter than the last, each gesture a claim upon strength or daring. The maidens nearby lower their eyes, though their lashes tremble with curiosity, their half-hidden smiles revealing that silence is not always submission. She remembers a time when she too walked lightly through such currents, when a glance could be an arrow, when the world seemed to hinge upon the brush of a hand. But her years have carried her elsewhere, to a place where vows speak louder than laughter, and choice is a path grown over with brambles. A flicker of silver cuts the air, knives arcing in the hands of jugglers. The crowd gasps and claps as the blades fall and rise again, glittering like fleeting stars captured and released. Children run forward, their eyes wide, stamping their wooden shoes upon the boards to the rhythm of a fiddler's bow. The music swells, raw and imperfect, yet it stirs something within her chest, reminder of summer evenings long past, when she too had danced in meadows lit by torchlight. For a breath, the weight she carries falls away, and her body leans toward the sound as if ready to move. But the glimmer fades. The weight of her marriage band presses against her finger, cold as a chain. It is a small circle, yet within it lies the walls of her life. She whispers to herself words she has long forgotten, half prayer, half resignation. Domini, fiat, voluntas, tua, Lord, thy will be done. Her hand curls, hiding the ring from sight, though its weight never lessens. She presses onward, weaving between stalls where ribbons unfurl in the breeze. They flutter like trapped wings, dyed in shades of crimson, azure, and gold, mocking her with their brightness. She reaches out, brushing the hem of a ribbon with her fingertips, soft as a bird's feather, and in that instant she imagines it tied into her hair, loose and laughing in the wind. Yet she lets it fall back, for such adornments are not for her, not now. Each ribbon is a promise of a freedom she cannot claim, a freedom that belongs to maidens still unmarked by the bonds she bears. The music fades behind her as she walks on, her eyes lowered, her steps heavy with memory. Around her the marketplace continues to surge with color and sound, but within her there is only a quiet ache, a song that rises but is never sung. The blacksmith's hammer rings out, sharp and unyielding, its clang slicing through the hum of the midday market like a heartbeat felt in the chest. Sparks leap from iron upon iron, catching the sunlight in brief, blazing arcs. And for a moment the woman pauses, listening. The rhythm is both command and comfort, a sound that marks the pulse of the town. The pulse of labor, the pulse of lives bound by work and duty. She moves again, threading through the crowded arteries of the square, her steps careful, yet carried with a quiet defiance, balancing the weight of necessity against a hunger for escape. At the bread stall, women gather like a small congregation. Their hands are dusted with flour, knuckles powdered white, and they barter in soft voices, offering silver or bartered eggs for loaves heavy with rye. She lingers at the edge of their circle, eyes drawn to the golden crusts, to the scent of grain and yeast mingling with the cool air. The bread reminds her of winters past, when crumbs were treasures hoarded and rationed with trembling fingers, when hunger gnawed beneath the hearth's warmth, and each meal was a victory won in silence. She brushes a stray lock from her face, inhaling the comforting, yeasty aroma. Letting her mind drift to those cold nights, the candles flickered dancing over stone walls that never seemed large enough to hold such longing. From there, the scent of beeswax draws her onward. A stall lined with smooth, pale pillars gleams in the sun, the candles arranged with care. Each one destined to burn in chapels, where the prayers of men are loud and numerous. She lifts one, feeling its heft in her hands, imagining its flames spilling light into a corner of her small home, casting shadows that stretch long like whispered questions or prayers unspoken. The wax is soft under her fingers, warm almost in its stillness, and she wonders if the simple act of lighting it could summon a voice, a presence, a blessing unrecorded in the ledgers of priests and magistrates. Above the square, the church bell tolls, commanding all to order, to obedience, to ritual. Its sound travels over the market, resonating with authority, and yet within her there is a softer toll inaudible to the crowd, but insistent. Nonetheless, the yearning for her own voice, for recognition of her thoughts. Her work, her existence is firm and enduring as the iron struck in rhythm on the forge. She glances toward the blacksmith again, watching his arms rise and fall, the sparks leaping like fleeting stars. How many hands shape the world and remain unseen, she wonders. How many songs go unheard beneath the din of those who claim to speak for all? She continues through the throng, her basket swinging lightly at her side. The smell of smoke, flour, and beeswax clinging to her sleeves. Children weave past, their laughter pure and untethered, reminding her of a freedom she once imagined, a freedom now tempered by duty. The market moves around her, relentless and vibrant, yet she walks with measured steps, collecting fragments of color and sound like scattered prayers, each one echoing the life she carries within herself. Strong, silent, resilient. As the bell fades, she pauses near a stall of iron tools, her gaze tracing the edges of chisels and tongs, thinking of the hands that wield them and the work they shape. For a heartbeat, the clang of the hammer and the rustle of coins and the whisper of flour-dusted women blend into one. And she feels both the weight and the heartbeat of the day, a reminder that her story, though quieter, beats in rhythm with all that surrounds her. By afternoon, the market has thickened into a living, breathing body, pulsing with the scent of salted meat, damp wool, and the lingering smoke from countless hearths. Every step presses her closer to the throng, the baskets and shoulders of strangers brushing against her own, a tactile reminder of shared labor and shared survival. She pauses, catching her breath, eyes drifting across the colorful stalls where silks shimmer like rivers in sunlight, colors twisting and folding as if they were alive. At one stall, the cloth merchant's voice rises, bold and commanding, calling men forward with authority. Questions from women are met with curt shrugs or dismissive nods, as though their curiosity were a shadow unworthy of notice. She reaches out with tentative fingers to a bolt of deep blue silk, the fabric soft and liquid against her palm. For a fleeting moment she imagines it stitched into a gown, a garment that might carry her into a grand hall where voices lift in song and laughter, where she would be counted among the joy rather than bound by silence. Her chest tightens with the impossible wish, a small, quiet rebellion that blooms and dies in a heartbeat. The merchant calls a price that rises like a wall between her and desire, a fortress built of gold and coins she will never hold. With careful hands she lets the bolt fall back into the folds of its stall, hidden from view as though it had been a secret she was never meant to touch. The blue fabric leaves a faint trace of longing on her fingertips, and she moves on, the imagined feast fading like smoke into the day. Her gaze shifts to a nearby pottery stand, humble in comparison, where clay jugs, rough-hewn and chipped at the rims, are arrayed in quiet dignity. Their surfaces bear the marks of hands that shaped them, lives etched into their curves and imperfections. She lingers, letting her fingers trace the cool terracotta, feeling the weight of labor and care beneath each vessel. In their simplicity, she finds a reflection of her own existence, resilient and enduring. Art, carrying burdens unseen and unspoken, yet still offering sustenance, still holding space for the small miracles of daily life. Children dart past the stalls, chasing scraps of sunlight across the worn cobbles, and the air vibrates with voices, barter, and the occasional burst of laughter. She watches from the edge, drawing in the rhythms of the market as if they could breathe courage into her own constrained movements. Her eyes rest briefly on a small fountain, water spilling over carved stone lips, a reminder that life moves, that even within walls of duty and expectation, streams of joy and beauty find their way. The sun leans lower in the sky, gilding silks, clay, and faces alike with warm light. She gathers her basket and continues, carrying the echoes of blue silk, the coolness of clay, the hum of music and voices that never fully belong to her, but linger nonetheless. Each step is measured, a careful rhythm that threads her through the square like a quiet song. A testament to the endurance of the women who live, work, and dream here, unseen yet unwavering. As dusk stretches its violet cloak across the sky, the market exhales a softer, slower breath. Torches flicker along its edges, smoke curling upward like pale fingers seeking stars, carrying the scents of wood smoke, roasted meat, and fading flowers. She moves among the fading stalls, where the day's last wares are pressed into bargains too sharp to ignore, bruised apples, cracked wheels of cheese, bundles of wilted herbs bound in coarse twine. Each item carries the echo of someone else's labor, the quiet proof of hands that work unseen and unpraised. The music continues, ragged and alive, A fiddler's bow scrapes against strings worn smooth by countless fingers. And dancers whirl in spirals of dust and firelight, their skirts painting the ground with fleeting color. She watches from the periphery, pulled by the rhythm that promises freedom, even as the weight of custom anchors her feet. Her heart quickens, a secret drumbeat that beats in time with the dancer's stamping shoes, with the murmur of laughter, with the clinking of coins. Yet she cannot step forward. A web of expectation, of vows unchosen, and duties inherited, holds her silently in place. Near a stall draped in patchwork cloth, a fortune-teller receives the furtive coins of lovers. Her whispers rise in the smoke, braided with incense and scent, threads of prophecy woven with half-truths and desires. The woman leans closer, yearning to hear if fate might offer more than toil, more than silent hours bent over bread or cloth. She imagines the words falling into her lap, a promise that life might bend to the shape of her own heart, not only to the demands of a world that sees her hands but rarely her mind. Fear knots her tongue. She cannot speak, cannot claim the magic she glimpses. She gathers her basket, heavier now with the day's purchases and lighter with the burdens left behind, and turns slowly toward home. The laughter of children, the clatter of coins, the echo of songs and feet chasing one another across the square, all trail behind her like distant bells. Ringing of freedoms glimpsed but not yet touched, her shoulders carry both weariness and quiet pride, the silent accumulation of days survived and small victories claimed. Each step homeward is a testament to endurance, the invisible ledger of resilience that marks the women who move through the world unseen. Yet vital, their stories stitched into every stone and plank of the marketplace. As the torches gutter and smoke rises toward the first stars, she pauses at the edge of the square, inhaling the last of the day's warmth and color. In the folds of her skirts, in the basket's weight, in the quiet space behind her veil, she carries a memory of rhythm, color, and possibility, a seed that may bloom tomorrow. The marketplace recedes behind her, but its pulse, its music, its longing continues. And she steps forward into the shadows, ready to bear another day.